Hello, my name is Darren Thomas, and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to be trying to understand and break down how the preface of a textbook or a book in general works. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at, okay, why do we read a preface? What's the point? And then what are the different parts of a textbook, or excuse me, a preface? So about the author, the purpose of the book, the audience of the book, the major themes of the text, and of course the assumptions. These are the major components of a preface. So to try to make this as simple as possible, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, the whole purpose of a preface is really for two reasons. Excuse me. For people who have to read the book, it kind of provides them with an overview of what to expect as they take their journey through the text. For people who don't have to read the book, it helps to convince them if they want to read the book. Again, by sharing, about the author, their credentials, their background, what the book is going to be about. So those are the two main reasons, in my opinion, that a preface is developed. One, to help someone who has to read the book to have an idea of the structure and overall formatting of the text. And two, for those who do not have to read it, to try to convince them that, hey, you should read this book, and of course, you should buy it. So let's go ahead and go into this. So our examples, as we get into the different parts of a preface, are going to be taken from this particular book right here, In the Classroom, by yours truly. This is the text we're going to be using as examples. So let's go ahead and take a look at why. And like I already mentioned, the preface kind of provides the reader with an idea of the direction and the scope and the purpose of the text. It helps them to figure out what is the author trying to do? Where is the author trying to take me? What is the author going to show with me? Who is the author? Why should I believe this guy? Why should I listen to this guy? And so this is what's kind of going on there when you are looking at the preface. It really helps to lay down the structure of the text and provide the reader with an idea of what to expect, what to anticipate, as well as some of the beliefs of the author as well at times. Now, I need to clarify as I go forward that, of course, no two people are going to agree on how a preface should be set up and the structure of it. However, we just want to give you a basic idea so that you kind of have an understanding of the motivation of why books have prefaces. And I also need to mention that sometimes a book may not have a preface, but it might have an introduction, like chapter 1 will be an introduction. So it's kind of a similar purpose, but not always necessarily the same thing. Some books have a preface and an introduction. It's really up to the author, but I'm just trying to give you a basic general idea of how these things are set up. Now, if you look at the text on the screen, this is an example of the overall scope of a textbook. So take it from the book that I wrote here. In addition to unfamiliarity with pedagogical approaches or a lack of knowledge of the theory behind already effective teaching, another challenge unique to the content of this book is working with students from Thailand. So I'm making it very, very clear that, again, for many people, they're not familiar with the theories behind pedagogy, or in other words, how to teach, and many people have no idea how to teach within the context of Thailand. So this is the purpose of my book, to provide ideas behind the basic theories of pedagogy, teaching, self-directed learning, indirect instruction, etc., as well as to provide insights and tips into how to teach within the context of Thailand. That was the purpose of the book. Now, another part of many prefaces, again, you're never going to find consensus on these things, is to talk a little bit about the author. Now, of course, many books will have a separate section where they talk about the author. They pull it out of the preface and they put it somewhere else. So it really depends on who you're writing for, the publisher, etc. But here's a little snippet again from my preface. I've spent 10 years working and living in Thailand. Of course, I could have added more to that, but I don't want to put a lot of text in the actual, video here. And so I'm trying to establish my credentials. So I worked in Thailand as a teacher. I lived in Thailand as a teacher. And so this is kind of helping the author to understand, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I've experienced this. And so I am qualified. I have the credibility to help you to maneuver through teaching within the context of Thailand. That is the reason why I put this within the preface. Now imagine if an author is trying to tell a reader how to teach Thai students when they've never dealt with Thai students or they've never even been to Thailand. That would weaken their credibility. So the motivation behind putting this here is to establish, hey, I've been there, I've done that. You can listen to me. You can trust what I have to say about this. Now, the purpose. Again, I've already kind of talked about this, but I'm just kind of going over it again. And I broke it down. So not only did I put it in actual paragraphs, but then I actually just flat out just labeled them again. Because, people don't always understand something when they read it the first time. So my first purpose is to provide an exposition on effective teaching methodologies. My second purpose, to share practical knowledge of teaching in the context of Thailand and Southeast Asia in general. That is what I'm trying to do. So I just flat out labeled it for them. So at the beginning of my preface, I kind of provided you, here's the problem. And so now I'm just flat out telling you just directly, here is my purpose. They often work together. If you're familiar with research, you should have an idea of what I'm talking about right here, because a preface is similar to the introduction of an actual research paper, research article. Now, audience, who are you writing for? This text is for people who are working as a new teacher, or who are students learning about teaching with a particular emphasis on working in Thailand. So you can see how there's a lot of overlap. When I lay out the problem, hey, teaching is hard, teaching in Thailand is unique. That's very similar to when I talk about the purpose, sharing with you teaching methodologies and giving you practical tips for teaching within Thailand. And then here again, I'm also overlapping myself again when I talk about who am I writing for? I'm writing for people who want to be teachers. And I'm also writing for people who are thinking about working within Thailand or Southeast Asia in general. So again, there's a lot of overlap. However, you have to lay these things out for the reader so they know either what you're going to share in the text because they have to read it as a student, or if they want to read it out of curiosity for someone who's just looking for something to read. Now, the major themes. So here, it really depends on how your book is set up. So my book has sections. Within sections, there's also several chapters. And so I explain the different sections or the major themes of my text right here. So part one deals with introduction and background. Then we go to looking at backward design. We start looking at goals and objectives as well. Part three is about assessment, making quizzes and the different type of questions you can ask. Part four explains the development of learning activities, self-directed learning, etc., all those different things like that. And so I'm laying out for you that as you go through my book, these are the things you are going to see on your journey. It's almost like when you're trying to drive somewhere, people tell you, hey, when you drive, you're going to see a McDonald's off to your right. When you keep going, you're going to see a mall here. And if you keep going, you'll see a Nike store. In other words, it helps you to anticipate what to expect through your reading journey, either as a student or as somebody who is convinced that they should read this book. That's how this works out. Now, another part that's very, very important is your assumptions. This is particularly true for more mature readers who are always trying to, look at someone's philosophical position and break down where they stand in terms of proper teaching methods, whatever. And so here I kind of lay out, the context. I'm not going to read all this to you. It'd be really boring. But I talk about how, I'm a Westerner and I'm trying to explain how to work and to live within Thailand. Of course, I bring my Western lens. My worldview is going to affect how I see things. But I also mention here how I don't want to either praise or criticize, Thailand. In other words, I'm trying to be objective, even though that's very, very, very difficult. So I also talk about how I try to let the data and the literature speak for itself. But, it is what it is, basically. And so this helps the reader to know what your position is in terms of how you're going to be shaping and sharing content. It's very, very important, not so much that people agree with your position, but that you are aware of your position and your biases as you try to share things as objectively as possible, which, again, even trying to be objective is a particular philosophical position. So let's go ahead and recap the purpose of a preface. The purpose of a preface, again, it has two main reasons. for someone who has to read, okay, here's what to expect. Here's what you're going to see. And for somebody who does not have to read the text, here's why you should read this text. Or if you're not going to read it, here's what the book is about, so you can at least have some idea of what this book is about, even if you don't have time to read it. The preface is almost like an abstract from a research paper or an executive summary for a program evaluation. It kind of gives you a condensed 1, 2, maybe 3 pages ideal of what this book is about. And of course, there are several different parts to a preface. It's going to talk about the author, potentially. It's going to share the purpose, of course, the audience, the major themes, and also the assumptions of the author. And one other thing I need to mention is that sometimes prefaces have like an acknowledgement section where they thank people. Again, it really depends. Sometimes that's separate. I just want to give you an idea of what you can expect, and so that you understand why you should read the preface. Everybody should read the preface. Whether you're just shopping for a book to decide if you want to buy it, or you are a student, it lays out the big picture. And for those of us who need the big picture, this is very, very critical in order for us to understand and appreciate what the author is trying to share with us as we take that journey through this textbook. So again, I would like to thank you so much for listening and watching this video. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you again, and take care.